everybody, and welcome back to the Leeds Lens for Leeds United's second win of the season away at Wolves. What a win that was, which is why we've titled the video Time to Party, because that's the point. Get a beer in, get the party started. Oh, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. And do you know the best thing is, we didn't just win 1-0 and it's like the attack really struggles. We went and blasted them away in the first half with 3 goals in 15 minutes and absolutely blew them away. So yeah, get your messages, get your comments in and we'll go through it. That is unbelievable today. Leeds. A Leeds for every single goal that Leeds United scored in that game. We scored 3 times the amount of goals in that game, in that 15-minute spell, than we did all season. And then what I liked about it is, we got to half-time. We're winning 3-1, which was a fantastic sort of second half of first half performance. In fact, to be honest with you, the whole first half was pretty good, except for a little slipping concentration in the first sort of part of the game. For the most part, the whole first half was really good. I thought, actually, when we were losing the game on the 20th minute, me and my brother looked at each of them and gone, we've played quite well here. We've been aggressive. Daniel Farke's gone for the game, and they've punished us with basically the only chance they've had. But actually, in the game, we've been pretty good. And then we deserved it. We deserved the Calvert-Lewin goal. Fantastic bowling from Bogle, but it's a bit of a hopeful ball. And what a header that is from Calvert-Lewin, sort of in between the 2 defenders and flicks it on into the corner. That's why I bought him. And I said in my preview, get crosses into Calvert-Lewin. He's one of the best headers of the ball in the whole division. Genuinely is. Get crosses into him and stuff will happen. You get the ball in. It's a hopeful ball in from Bogle. He wins the header. He scores. And then we're straight back in the game. And then after that, it was devastating for the next few minutes. Stach scores an unbelievable free kick. That is about as top bins as you're going to get. It was fabulous. What a result that is for Leeds United. And the second half, the best thing about the second half is, I wasn't that worried. We didn't, as I said in my preview, the only thing they're going to get from the game is out wide, crosses into the box, and that's what we saw. We saw an absolute ton of crosses in that second half into our penalty area. But nothing played through the middle, nothing looking too dangerous. It was very controlled. We knew what we were doing. It was disciplined. And as I said, we got the game of line. Game felt huge today, and they've smashed it. Fantastic 3 points off a direct rival. No, exactly. And that's the other thing now. 7 points on Wolves, people. 7 points on Wolves already. And we've only played, 5 games now? And we've got 7 points on Wolves. They lost all the first 5. Their crowd was horrendous today. They probably want to jump on the pitch, get on the pitch and start protesting. They're that furious. I mean, they were furious at 2-1. They were definitely furious at 3-1. They're definitely furious. I mean, to be honest, they couldn't even be furious at full time because there was basically nobody left in the stadium whatsoever. Leeds United had cleared the decks, away performance, and there's no one in the ground anymore. That's how you know you've played well away from home. But as I said, first goal, fantastic on Calvert-Lewin. Second goal, free kick, obviously. I actually thought the free kick, funny enough, I don't think people remember the free kick, but I actually thought that it was a bit more further, we actually took it from further out than potentially the foul was committed. But I don't care because Stach did the Stach thing and just lasered it in the top corner. I actually thought potentially, if we want to critique Wolves, which do we care? Probably not. But I actually thought potentially Jose Sarr shouldn't be beaten there. But it was so top bins. I mean, he hit it with such power. I didn't think Stach had a shot like that. And even being honest, some of the shots we've seen from him against Fulham and in some other games, I haven't seen this power. But what a strike that was. Straight in the top corner. And me and my brother are watching it. My brother's going, oh, don't let Stach take it. Well, that's what I was saying. He was saying this is definitely going over the bar. And he just lasered it into the top corner. Unbelievable. As I said, can always rely on 3 points at Molineux. I know. I used to call it the Luke Ayling Arena. That's what I called it in my preview. It's just now the Leeds United Arena. We take over at thingy. Even if we can't score goals, which it looked like going into the game, we can't score goals. Somehow we find goals away at Molineux. No matter how, we can be the worst team ever and go to Molineux and win. It's 3-point lane for Leeds United is Molineux. It's 3-point lane. But yeah, as I said, then Stach scores a fantastic free kick, and then to top off a brilliant first half performance, Stach wins it in the midfield, gets it out wide quickly to Okafor, who just takes a shot low and hard into the corner, and we make it 3-1 before half-time. And me and my brother are jumping around like we're in dreamland. I mean, oh, wow. I ain't celebrated like that in a long time, people. It was just fantastic. As I said, it was just chaos. It was just blow, blow, blow. And we've talked about, can Leeds United get a performance away from home? Can we create chances away from home? And more importantly, can we score goals and pick up points away from home? Well, we saw today That is what Leeds United can do, and we can score goals. And yes, people are going to look at the sort of how it went in the game and look at the stats after and go, yeah, but Wolves had 15 shots. They were all hopeless sort of crosses into the box and poor headers towards Darlow's goal. There wasn't anything of note. There only one chance they really had, in my opinion, that was a quote-unquote good chance, was the goal they actually scored. And I thought, as I said, even after the first 20 minutes, I know they were winning the game 1-0, but I thought we'd been the better team. And I thought, actually, early on in the game, it was piece of play that was frustrating me. Goodmanson got down the line early on, cut it back to Calvert-Lewin. It was a poor ball, or for me, poor movement from Calvert-Lewin. Then I think we had another chance down, finished the right-hand side where we cut a ball across and it wasn't quite there. But yeah, as I said, what a result! What a result! But let's get into some of the sort of the notes that I've written down as such. Now we've talked through the game. And by the way, on the Okafor goal, in my opinion, I know people are going to say, oh, it's poor from Sarr. It's a great finish from Okafor. It's a great finish because it's that if you any sort of finish for that particular chance, it's got to, if you get it low, right in the corner, the keeper's got to get, even if it's slow, and I don't think it's that hard. It's so hard for the keeper to get down for that one. It's the only finish he should be doing, and it was the finish he went for, and it worked a treat. It was fantastic. It really was. And yeah, we find ourselves up in the game, 3-1 at half time in absolute dreamland. But yeah, as I said, I actually think potentially the bigger mistake was potentially on the second goal from Sarr of the two, because I think it's actually quite a difficult save from the Okafor one. I thought it was a really, really good finish from him. And again, I think one of the main benefits about today is we haven't just won the game. We haven't just scored 3 goals. We've got goals from players that I think really needed goals today. We really needed goals. Like, Okafor needed a goal, in my opinion. Calvert-Lewin, more than anybody, needed a goal for Leeds United. He had that awful time, obviously, away at Sheffield Wednesday. And he's come back and he's scored today. And I thought his all-round game as well was fantastic. It really, really was. He was winning fouls. I think I registered 3 fouls he won in the second half. And he was dealing with absolute scraps, if we're being honest, in the second half. I mean, we actually had a chance, I think, with Goodmanson in the second half, but that was about it. Although fair, I think that was probably the best chance of the whole half, which says it all. Okafor shows his quality there. Hopefully he can be consistent and stay off the med table. That will be vital. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think he's like when obviously Okafor went off in the second half and Harrison came on. I wasn't actually a big fan of that change because I think Okafor does offer a bit more. I think he offers more threat in the final third, in my personal opinion, than the likes of a Jack Harrison or a Brendan Aronson. I think with Harrison and Aronson on the wings, I don't think we really offer anything in the final third, if I'm being honest. Which we didn't need to. That game state obviously decides how you play, and we didn't need to offer a load in the sort of final stage of the game. We didn't need to do that. It was just about being resilient in the back and making sure everybody did the defensive duties and stopping them crosses coming in if we could. But I do think, as I said, at that point I saw more. When Okafor came off, I think we saw Wolves build up more because I think then they weren't as worried about Okafor in behind, which I think they had been, because I think Okafor actually played quite well and I think we saw his quality today. And as I said, when he gets the chance, the most important thing is he took that chance, because we didn't have tons of like shots at goal. I think we had quite a few moments where we broke them down, like we broke down in the second half with Goodmanson on the left-hand side, who, by the way, was probably man of the match, in my opinion. Goodmanson, I thought he was brilliant and a great way to come back from the sort of disasters of last week as such. But yeah, I thought actually Goodmanson on the left back actually had 2 chances, one in the first half where he could have pulled it back to Calvert-Lewin, and obviously one in the second back where he sort of like, I think it bounced off one of their players and didn't quite fall for one of our, I think it was Harrison, was it Aronson and Calvert-Lewin in the box, who would have had an open goal at that point, because I don't know why, but Jose Sarr decided to run out of his box, which was quite bizarre. But yeah, let's get into some of my notes. What did I write down? To be honest, in the second half, I was like pacing up and down, not doing tons of notes, if I'm being totally honest. So, but I've got a lot more from the first half as well, because that's where I think a lot of what actually occurred in the game happened really in the first half, of course, because in the second half it was just a case of Leeds United sitting in, being resilient, and also being well drilled. I think we saw well drilled and we saw professionalism, and that's something I have given massive credit to for Leeds United so far this season. I think if there's one way you can sum up the way we've played, it's professionalism, because it's important when you get yourself 3 up in the game to make sure you go on and win the game. And we actually saw it out with real ease in the end. I mean, we didn't even concede. I thought we'd probably concede one in the second half, but we sat in resilient. We didn't make any daft errors. We didn't do stupid. Darlow, again, was brilliant in the goal. And we'll get onto player ratings, obviously, later in. And obviously, if you guys are watching live, get your comments in about where you see each individual player rating. That's how we always try to do it. But yeah, as I said, I thought that Actually, we were, as I said, the way the second half panned out, we were just sort of sat in and counter-attacking, but really professional job. And a solid, exactly what you need to do in a away game when you're 3-1 up at half-time. You don't need to go blow for blow. There was no reason to do that. It was all about, as I said, sitting in, managing the game, and we managed it so well, in my opinion. But a few shout-outs, by the way, before we get onto the player ratings. Stach in the midfield, phenomenal. Such a good performance in terms of, not just, obviously, I think we've talked about Stach in terms of he works hard, his defensive diligence, he's done well, but can he give us something going forward? Can he give us some creative spark going forward? Well, today he comes out with a goal and an assist. This is what we ordered from Anton Stach. He gets his goal, fantastic free kick, as we know. And then he also, as I said, sets up Okafor for the second goal. I actually think he could have been involved in more as well. I thought we won the ball again high up and we were going at their back three, because that was a lot of the way the chances were coming from tonight. We were winning it in midfield, which I thought would happen. And then when we won the ball back, because of the way their fullbacks are so high, naturally, we were then basically had a 3-on-3 of Brendan Aronson, Calvert-Lewin and Okafor against their back three. And we caused them absolute nightmares winning that ball in midfield. I thought our midfield bossed them, if I'm being totally honest. 3 new signs on the score sheet too. Never doubted the recruitment once. Of course not. The recruitment, by the way, unbelievable. Best recruitment ever. No, I'm joking. Ellen Back says, "Hi Scott, hello mate, how are you? Are you presumably like me? You're in this party of enjoying this win." As I said, we're not going to get, in my opinion, tons of away victories, which is why when we do, you got to have a party about it. Fart got it spot on and deserved big credit. Great away performance. He did, because what Fart did is he set us up. There's been a lot of, I mean, I'm speaking about 3 times here, but this is a lot of what I'd said with Daniel Farke, in my opinion, is that we know we've got the sort of disciplined, professional, managing the game performance in us away from home, but do we have that other style? Do we have the other mode where we actually go at teams and actually create chances ourselves and dominate the game away from home? And I thought in the first half we showed that different style, and that gives me real sort of confidence going into the rest of the season. The fact that we could have a performance like we had in the first half. And sort of, as I said, dominate the game in the first half of the way we did. And I knew we had that second half performance in us. It was very similar to what we did away at Fulham. We just obviously conceded against Fulham, which we didn't do against Wolves. And we did it the same against Newcastle. We know we've got them sort of dogged performances in to grind out. We know we can do that. It's just, could we have that special touch in the final third to score goals away from home and to create chances away from home? And we showed that in the first half. We actually, as I said, we actually showed as well in that first half that even with the midfield of Longstaff, Stach and Ampadu, which looks on paper like a defensive midfield in my opinion, actually, in a certain way, with a certain press, we can actually be really aggressive in games. And I think we've actually seen now 2, in my opinion, really strong first half performances where we've looked like we're creating chances. Like we had it against Everton, we were fantastic in that first half, and we had it today again in that first half where as I said, we were the ones imposing on the game, which is what we called for on the preview. I called for Daniel Farke to let them off the hook and let them go forward and let us try to dominate the game and employ a high press. And we saw all of that today. But then in the same breath, we saw at half-time he completely changed and went, look, the game state dictates how we're going to play. And in certain situations, when you get yourself 3-1 away from home, you don't need to go guns blazing. And actually, then you can go into the Fulham away game and manage the game. And this is what I want to see from Farke. I want to see these 2 different contrasting styles. I want to see us manage the game carefully. But in the same way, I want to see us be on the front foot and actually go for games in another way as well. I think I want to see both sides of it. Longstaff and Aronson commenting each other with their work rate. Yeah, they do. And them 2 work the socks off every game. But to be honest, everyone did. I mean, the amount of balls the likes of Joe Rodon and Pascal Strauch headed out today was impeccable. I thought Ampadu in the midfield, by the way, was sensational as well. There could be a number of man of the match performances, in my opinion, today. I think probably Goodmanson just edges it because I think he offered so much defensively and so much attacking. But yeah, there was a number of man of the match performances. But as I said, it was nice to see that balance today where we know, because now against Bournemouth, I'm looking for the same sort of thing. I'm looking for us in the Bournemouth game, not just to have that sort of defensive discipline that we offer and we manage the game and sort of sat in counter-attacking football, but also the other style where we're on the front foot, we're trying to dominate the game, we're trying to score goals like we saw in that first half against Everton. And we saw it, as I said, in that first half today against Wolves. And one thing that I quite liked about it as well is I thought against Wolves in the first half, we actually managed to play through the lines, which I've talked about that Leeds United have struggled with, playing through the channels. And actually a lot of our chances really just come from pump ball up into Calvert-Lewin. But today I thought we actually managed to play through the lines much better as well in that first half, which was something I really liked to see because I didn't think that was going to be possible without a number 10 or without Pro playing, where he's going to operate in that number 10 role and drop in like a false 9. I thought without either Pro playing or a recognised 10, which we don't have, we wouldn't be able to have a performance like that in the first half. But we showed today that we could do that as well. So it was, as I said, it was a complete away performance that. Score the goals in the first half, solid defensive in the second half, and then see the game out by managing the game, going down for fouls, the striker doing his job, winning fouls, Okafor doing the same, Aronson, to be honest, doing the same. And then dealing with any crosses that come into the box, which are naturally going to come in. Because I thought, actually, to be honest with you, Wolves didn't offer all that much. Like Wolves, obviously, in phases of the game, had the game, and they were sort of progressing the game. But I don't think, as I said, they didn't offer anything through central spaces. All it was crosses in from the right hand side or crosses in from the left hand side. A lot of them, obviously, from Hugo Bueno, but I think a lot of it as well from who's that from Agbadu as well. Their sort of right centre back who was whipping a lot of crosses in, and that was, in my opinion, about all they offered. Really, they just threw at half time. If you want Victor Pereira's team talk, he went, right, what we need to do, get more crosses into the box, get Akader on or whatever their new striker is from Belgium, get Strand Larsen on, we're just going to cross balls in all day. And that's all they did. Really impressed with Darlow's positioning and the way he commands his area. Yeah, but Darlow was fantastic. So let's get on to player ratings anyway, because we've talked enough about the thing and it's time to get into the player ratings. So let's start with Darlow in goal. As you can see at the top of my screen there, obviously that is the lineup from today's game. Darlow, for me, he's got to be. What has he done wrong today? There's nothing he can do with the goal, by the way. Literally nothing. Actually, I actually think the goal was just a really well constructed goal from Wolves. It was a lovely 1-2, and really the only time they actually managed to play through our central space. But yeah, Darlow for me. He had a lot of work to do in the second half. Not tons of hard saves to make, but loads of handling decisions and punching and catching and a few saves where he had to just keep hold of it as well. I thought he was fantastic. He'd probably get an 8 for me today. He might even get a 9. We'll give him a 9 because we need to celebrate the party, of course. But yeah, so Darlow can have a 9 in goal. Bogle, so disappointed about the injury, by the way, because I thought he was brilliant. I think he was probably the worst of the two fullbacks, if I'm being totally honest, but that wasn't bad by any means. And did his defensive work well, which so many people, by the way, mainly Sheffield United fans, have given Bogle sort of such a hard time about he can't defend, he can't do this. Nonsense. It's absolute tripe. The guy's brilliant going forward and he's brilliant going back. He's a bloody good fullback, is Bogle. There's no wrong with him at all. This nonsense that he can't defend is literally, it's a myth. It's an absolute myth. So yeah, Bogle, good. So disappointed about the injury. Hopefully it's not too bad, but the way he's give him all 10s, I might do. But the way he was like limping on it, I don't know. I'm a bit worried about that because I usually think when players can't put pressure on it, but and put something on the foot, I think there's usually a few issues there. Centre backs, Rodon, nothing wrong at all, and there was a lot of defending to do in that second half. Not in terms of like really, really last ditch defending, I didn't think, but a lot of defending to do, a lot of headers, a lot of shouldering people out and making sure they can't get on the end of it. Because it's not always about heading the ball out, but it's about stopping the opposition heading it naturally. And I thought the way we sort of controlled that when the balls were coming in was fantastic as well. So me, you'd have to get a 9. I think Rodon. I thought he was brilliant today. And to be honest, I think there is conversations about Rodon again being up for Player of the Season this year. Like he's been one of our best players, if not our best player in my opinion. Looking forward to seeing James Justin start, assuming Bogle misses a few games. Yeah, to an extent, it'd be nice to see what Justin can do, but I think Bogle is, I said this all along, Justin's a backup for me. Bogle's the much better right back. Bogle's been brilliant for us. But yeah, Rodon, I generally don't think he did anything wrong, and he did a lot of defending, so I'd probably give him a 9. Strauch, I think, was slightly worse than Rodon. I think Rodon is the better defender of the two, if I'm being totally honest, especially a penalty box defender, but still good. I thought he was really good today, Pascal Strauch. He's better on the ball, I think, potentially Strauch as well, and the way he sort of can bring it through the midfield. I just think he's a bit more sort of, he has a few more defensive slip-ups, I think, in the defensive third than Rodon does. But I think he'll get a 9 as well. I don't think he was much worse, if I'm being honest, at all. Goodmanson, 10 out of 10. Genuinely, I thought it was brilliant. In fact, 9.5. And the only thing I can pick Goodmanson up on, in my opinion, was his final. When he was brilliant at getting in positions in the final third. When he got into position in the final third, I don't think he picked out the right option either time. He had 2 opportunities. One in the first half, when obviously he went down the line really early on. I think at the game was 0-0 at the point. Well, yeah, it definitely was. And he cut it back, and obviously Calvert-Lewin wasn't quite there. I think someone should have gambled from the midfield as well on that, so I'm giving a bit of credit there. But I did think, actually, in the second half, for me, that one should have ended up in a goal. Do you know, when he got in on the left-hand side, I think he should have found a pass there. I think it did get intercepted. But yeah, that's the only thing I can critique him on. But he was a 9.5. He's good going forward, Goodmanson. He's good going back. I think per player, he's probably our best player, Goodmanson, I think. In terms of, is he a better, say, left back than Calvert-Lewin is striker? I think he is. And I think he's the best of that position in the whole squad. His actual position, if that makes sense. I do think he's potentially our best player. Surprised not to see more of Bogle given his summer hype. Yeah, I know, but Strout's been so good, hasn't it? And Rodon's been so good. You can't drop them two at the moment. And I've sort of talked about Bogle as a better penalty box defender and stuff. But when Strout's playing well, you've got to reward performances. You've got to have meritocracy, and you've got to reward good performances with continuing to start, because otherwise what's the point? And as I said, Strout really, other than the Arsenal game, which I thought he was pretty poor in, to be honest, I don't think he's had a bad game this season at all. And the defensive numbers are good. We're not conceding many goals at all. We conceded one today, one at Fulham, none against Newcastle, none against Everton, and obviously 5 against Arsenal. But I think that was a different sort of game setting, really. And also Bogle, if we're being honest, in the chance he got against Wednesday, I know it was a completely different game, and I think today's game, especially in that second half, would have suited Bogle. A lot of crossing into the box, a lot of heading out, it would have suited him. But I don't, as I said, Strout's playing so well that you can't drop him, in my opinion. Ampadu, brilliant today. Again, he's been one of our best players as well this season, in my opinion. His job is just brilliant. Like he's actually better, I think, in a team that's not as good in the league. Like I think he's a better player for us this year than he was last year, because I think game state suits him more. I think backs against the wall, sort of when we're not the best team in the game, which I think we probably were today, hence we won the game. But I think in certain games when we're not on paper the better team, I think that suits him. And when we've got more defending to do, I think it suits him more than just being that, when we've got all the ball like we had in the Championship and he's spraying passes out wide left and wide right or whatever. I don't actually think that suits him, because I think he's much more in terms of what he's better at in terms of a holding midfielder. He's better for me. He's much better defensively than he is going forward, which naturally obviously suits a holding midfield player. But I think even as a holding midfielder, his best stuff is the defensive stuff. Especially that second half performance suited him down to the ground, because he's so disciplined in the box as well, not fouling people, but like he always looks like he's quite level-headed in the box as well when clearing it, which is naturally when we're all panicking watching. So that's impressive in my opinion. So yeah, I thought he was really good. Longstaff again ran his socks off. I don't think he was quite as good as Stach, because I don't think he offered as much going forward as Stach does, which obviously is what we call from Anton Stach. But I thought he was good. I thought he'd probably give him a 7.5. Works his socks off, doesn't he, Longstaff? He really does. And he's really important for us in terms of breaking up the play. He's massively important for that. So you'd probably 7.5 from Longstaff. Another solid Longstaff performance. And I think this is the midfield we'll stick with for a while now. I think Tanaka will struggle to get back in the team. I'm not sure on that personally. I know it worked today, but I do think there is going to be points where Tanaka should feature, in my opinion, because he's just so good on the ball in comparison, I think, to the players in the team. But, I think, obviously, when they're playing well, again, it's a meritocracy, and you can understand why they're starting games. Stach, good today. Obviously, got a goal and assist, so, he obviously was good. I would probably give him a 9. It offered good stuff defensively, and then also offered that output going forward with the goal and the assist. As I said, he was really good today. He gets a 9 for me. I still think at times when we're on the ball, he sometimes has that sort of that almost lazy pass. That is the way I like to call it. Like he sort of overstretches sometimes, or he doesn't seem to. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be fully. Concentrating sometimes when he's playing the ball, and I think that can sometimes be a bit of an issue when he's on the ball. Like I'm like, right, concentrate now and play that pass. And sometimes I think there is a slight problem there. But obviously with the goal and the assist and the way we defended, he was brilliant. Longstaff and Tanaka offer different profiles. Very useful on a game by game basis. Very impressed with the midfield. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for me, if we're playing like we did in the first half of a game, like we did today, Tanaka suits that game much more. It suits Tanaka when we're on the ball. And when we're off the ball, like we're in the second half, that suits Longstaff. So actually, if you're looking at where Leeds United should go in terms of, and what Leeds United should be doing, I think actually Tanaka starting games against worse opposition, I would like in the midfield. And then when we're seeing out games and doing the sort of and managing a game like we were in the second half, that's the Longstaff show then. When he's covering ground, getting out right, getting out left, stopping them crosses coming in, breaking up the play, that's his game. But I think when we're on the ball and we're trying to dominate possession, which we were in the first half, I think that game state naturally suits Tanaka a bit more. So I probably would have started Tanaka today, which I did say. But Longstaff, as I said, wasn't bad in that first half. I just think that Tanaka can offer you in the attack is something potentially a bit better than Longstaff, which is why when we're on the ball, I do think he's the one that should play. But yeah, he wasn't bad. Now on to Okafor on the left-hand side. Good game from Okafor. His best game in a Leeds shirt, definitely. I was slightly worried with him coming out of the Wednesday game. I was a bit more worried coming out of the Fulham game. I thought he was okay in that game, but he didn't, I don't know, it just didn't really click for him, whereas today was much better. I still think he hasn't quite got that absolute burst of pace that I thought he might have, which I think is obviously something he's worked on, and we're going to and obviously he's talked in that interview he did recently about the fact that he's worked on him on the ball and sort of in his sprints in behind. Because he needs to be able to do sprints consistently, because that's something that we're going to be massively important for us, that acceleration that he can offer. I think that's something he can work on, because I don't think he's quite as quick as I thought he was. I thought we'd be up there with like Dan James speed, which he's not quite there with. But as I said, when he got his moment in the first half, put the ball under the keeper, brilliant finish, exactly what he needed to do. Onto the right hand side, Aronson works hard. Aronson, he's a hard worker. That's what we know what it is. I think what we call for with Aronson, I think we all can all agree with this, is can we offer a bit more in the final third? That's the challenge you'd give to Aronson. You'd never question his effort. You never question his determination. But can he offer a bit more going forward? Can he pose a threat? Because he just doesn't do that. Like as I said, when we took Okafor off in that second half and it was just Harrison and Aronson on the wings, I don't think we ever see anything going forward then. I don't think we see that sort of attacking anything going forward really with them two out wide. So that'd be my thing that obviously Aronson needs to work on. But he wasn't bad today. I'd probably give him an 8 for the result part of it. You know, we've got to be results biased, obviously. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front scored a great goal. It didn't really get any other chances. I think part of his movement I was slightly disimpressed with at times. But when he got his main chance, which was a really hard chance as well, I think I looked at it before coming live and it was a 0.12 XG chance. And I know people don't like XG, but everyone knows watching that it's a hard chance. It's a really high whipped ball without a lot of pace on it. And he's managed to generate all the pace, got up between the two centre-backs, and a great header, looping header into the far corner. It was a brilliant header, that. And it was out of nothing. And just when we talk about, like, we go, Calvert-Lewin needs to make something out of nothing at times. He did that today. It was a hopeful cross from Bogle. Yes, it was sort of on Calvert-Lewin's head, but he made that ball. He really did. It wasn't a fantastic cross into the box. It wasn't, if we're being honest. It was where it needed to be, but it wasn't whipped in with loads of pace and low and a perfect one where he could just flick it on. He had to generate all the power, and he did, and it was a brilliant header. So for that alone, he has to get an 8.5. And actually in the second half as well, he held the ball up really well, in my opinion. Something he actually does do, which I want to comment on, is when we a lot of times when we go long, he wins everything, Calvert-Lewin, when we go long. But he flicks it on, and sometimes I'm like, can we get your chest on it, or head it just back rather than flicking it on? Can we just head it back into play and see if we can head it to someone like a Brendan Aronson or a Stach or a Longstaff to pick the ball up, and then we can go forward with it rather than just flicking it on? Because I think a lot of times we went long with him, and it got flicked on, and nobody's running onto it. And maybe that's something that Okafor needs to work on, that when the ball goes long, get ready to run in behind from the Calvert-Lewin flick. But I wonder if he can just knock it back into play so we can collect possession rather than just flicking it on, because he's so good at winning it. It's just directing it, I think. The flick on, I don't think is the correct thing. I think knocking it back to play. And I think the best success we've had from that game is the Newcastle game where the ball went long to Nemecha. And although it wasn't like he wasn't winning it as frequently as Calvert-Lewin is, he was getting like a knee on it or a shin on it or a chest on it and knocking it back into play. And we were seeing Stach, Tanaka's, I know Tanaka playing that game, Stach, Longstaff's and Ampadu's picking it up in the midfield, and then we can go forward with it, and then we can get some decent possession rather than just getting flicked on. I think so. That's the thing. I think if I'm talking to Calvert-Lewin, yes, he's doing fantastically in the air, but can he knock it back into touch? Back into touch, back into play. That's something I'm going to question with him and see if we can get better at that. But he took his chance really well, and as I said in the second half, really disciplined and really well at managing the game. Because when you're managing a game like that in away performances, everyone's got to do the part. The defenders have got to defend well when the ball comes in. The fullbacks have got to try to stop crosses coming in and defend their one-on-one duels with their wingers correctly. The wingers have got to drop in and give support to the defence as well, which they do well. The midfield's got to be solid and stop everything coming through the middle and force them out wide. And the striker's got to hold the ball up and win free kicks. And he did that brilliantly. He really did that well, Calvert-Lewin. So that's something that he definitely gets props for. because everyone's got to get involved, and the keeper's obviously got to save it and command his area, which he did really well as well. Didn't I say the squad was good enough to finish mid-table? You did, PSF. You did, PSF. And today, we won't criticise you. PSF is right today. If that's going to be the case going forward, we're going to have to wait and see. But I did say before today's game, we're going to need, I think, we've now got 2 wins, but before going into this game, we had obviously 4 points. I think we were going to need another 9 or 10 more wins. In my opinion, 9 more wins obviously would take us to 31 points, and then you got draws on top of that. Obviously, 10 wins would take you to 34 points with obviously draws on top of that. And I thought the way we're going to have to structure that is, naturally, we're going to be better at home, of course, but we're probably going to need 3 away wins, in my opinion. And we've clocked 1 off today, and that's massive, because now I'm looking at thinking, probably we only need now 2 more away wins for the rest of the season. And just get maybe 3 or 4 draws, and then get yourself like 6 draws and 5, 6 draws and, I don't know, 6 wins at home, and you might just get over the line then. So yeah, that's massive. That's massive, in my opinion. We have an experienced squad. The only weakness is Fark. I completely disagree. You can have your praise about the squad. You are not having praise about Fark. There is no way in a million years you can criticise Daniel Fark for that performance. That is biasing, mate. I've got to be honest. He managed the first half really well. Went attacking like we all wanted to. Got us through and up. And in the second half, managed the game. Didn't let them have a lot of chances. Anything that they had came from out wide. That was it. We can not want Daniel Farke to be at the football club, and I know we've got a lot of closet Daniel Farke outers in the fan base, and that's absolutely fine. You can have your own opinion, but you cannot say that it was his fault today, or that like any criticism of Daniel Farke today. He managed the game superbly well today. He really did. Any criticism is just nonsense, in my opinion. You can think that you want the manager out, and you can think he's not good enough, and all that's absolutely fine. But criticising him for today is tosh, in my opinion. It's absolute tosh. We've won the game 3-1. Come on. But yeah, and then onto the subs. I thought Tanaka was just ran around a lot. He'll probably get an average 6. He didn't do much. 7. Let's give him, because we won. Harrison, I didn't think offered that much. 7 as well. Who else came on? Nemecha was on for about 10 seconds. 7. James Justin did well in the thing, but again wasn't on for very long. Probably a 7 there. And that is, I think is that the lot on Gruev? I can't remember Gruev coming on, so you can have a 7 as well. And then finally, Daniel Farke. It's got to be a 9 today, which is why I didn't like the criticism, why I threw back at it so hard. Then he was brilliant. He got it bang on today. And as I said, one thing I've called for with Daniel Farke, and I'll say this again for the 3rd time on this show today, I called for us to, yes, we know we can manage a game, and yes, we know we can sit in and play counter-attacking football, but can we get chances? Can we dominate a game from away from home? Can we get on the ball and play possession-based football and press and get on the ball and actually look like a threat? Well, we showed today that we can do that, and we showed today that Daniel Farke has got 2 styles, because you can have different personnel people, or the same personnel, and play in completely different ways. Look at the first half and look how we played in the first half with the exact same team, and then look how we played in the second half, and we changed it. Because in the first half, obviously, yes, we're brilliant going forward, but we did concede transitional moments. They didn't make the most transitional moments, but we did concede transitional moments. We didn't get that, and obviously we didn't want to get transitioned on in the second half at all, which is why we changed the system. Daniel Farke changed at half time, and then we got through the game. Scott, Farke is not a Premier League manager. This is the best squad Farke has ever managed. He needs to. I can't say that, but STFU, people know what that means, and manage the team. Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. I know he's talked about, obviously, like the squad's bad and all this stuff, which I've called for to be sort of stopped. But as I said, you cannot criticise Daniel Farke for today. You just cannot criticise it. We started struggling every time Harrison comes on. I really wish we'd stop playing him. They're only saying he's a defensive player now because he's so gash going forward. I disagree on that. I do think he does his defensive work well, in my opinion. I actually thought he probably should have started the game. I think he's better than Aronson, in my personal opinion. Off topic, Sanchez just been sent off for Chelsea. Has he? Fantastic. No, it's not fantastic. They're playing Man United. It's the only time I want Chelsea to win when they're playing against Man United. So that's not actually ideal. And he's terrible, by the way. but that's regardless. Anyway, we're going off topic here. Fantastic win for Leeds United. If you have watched till this point, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And also, I answer all the comments. I should mention this more. I answer all the comments, on the lives, but actually after the show as well. So if you do want to comment and get involved, then you're more than welcome to, and I will definitely respond to you. But yeah, thanks all for watching. What a win for Leeds United. Enjoy your Saturdays, people, because Leeds United, I think, are back in the top 10 as well. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. See you all later, everybody. Bye for now.